I woke up to a notification that someone was in my bedroom. At 2:47 in the morning, my phone lit up on the nightstand with a notification from my security camera app. Motion detected, bedroom. I was in my bedroom. I was the only person who was supposed to be in my bedroom. I picked up my phone, opened the app, and looked at the live feed. And there was someone standing in the corner of my room. I need you to stop whatever else you are doing right now and stay with me. Because what happened next across the following 40 minutes is the reason I now sleep with the light on, have rearranged my entire living situation, and have developed a relationship with my building's security team that none of us planned for. Let me take you back to the beginning, because the beginning matters. 3 weeks before this night, I had moved into a new flat. Second floor, building with a main entrance key fob system, no balcony, 2 windows that face the street and locked from the inside. I had moved in alone. New city, new building, the specific low-level alertness that comes with not yet knowing what your environment sounds like at night. Which creaks are the building settling, which above, which sounds belong and which ones don't. The first week I had woken up at least 3 times to sounds thuds come from the flat I couldn't immediately identify. Each time lying still in the dark, running through a mental list of explanations until I found one I was satisfied with and went back to sleep. It was that specific alertness that made me set up the security camera at the end of week 2. I had read one too many late-night threads about apartment break-ins, the kind you stumble into at midnight and regret immediately because you spend the next hour checking your window locks instead of sleeping. The camera was a small one, positioned in the top corner of the room, angled down across the bed and toward the door. It fed directly to an app on my phone and sent motion alerts whenever it detected movement in the room. I had tested it by waving my hand at it and confirming the notification arrived. It worked. I felt safer. I went to sleep. I had received exactly 0 alerts since setting it up. Until 2:47 on a Wednesday morning in October. Tell me something honestly in the comments before I continue, because I need to know how you think you would respond. If your phone lit up at 3 in the morning with a motion alert from a camera inside your own bedroom, and you were already inside that room when it went off, what would your first move be? Would you turn on the light immediately? Would you lie completely still? Or would you, like me, open the camera app with shaking hands in the dark before doing anything else? Because what I did in those first 10 seconds shaped everything that happened after. I opened the app. The live feed loaded slowly, the way apps always do at the worst possible moment. Buffering in 3 stages while my heart was doing something I was not aware hearts could do. And then the image came through. The camera was positioned in the top corner of the room, angled down across the bed and toward the door. In the feed, I could see myself lying in bed, phone screen glowing. I could see the door closed. I could see the window dark, and in the far bottom corner of the frame, partially behind the wardrobe, there was a shape. Dark, still. The rough outline of something that was approximately human height pressed against the wall. I did not move for what I think was close to 30 seconds. I was doing a specific kind of mental calculation that I suspect anyone would do in that situation. The one where you are trying to determine whether what you are seeing is real before committing to any response. Because committing to a response when you are alone in a dark room with a potential intruder requires a level of certainty you want to be very sure about. I zoomed in on the camera feed. The shape did not move. It had no visible features. It was simply a dark vertical mass where there should not have been a dark vertical mass. Here is where my thought process split into 2 tracks simultaneously. And I want you to follow both of them, because they are both important. Track 1 was rational. The shape had not moved. The door was closed and still closed. Both windows were locked from the inside before I went to sleep, and were visibly undisturbed in the feed. There was no logical entry point that explained a person being in the corner of my room. Track 1 was telling me there was a reasonable explanation, and I needed to find it. Track 2 was not rational. Track 2 was pointing out that I was alone, that it was 3 in the morning, that there was a shape in the corner of my room, and that reasonable explanations are significantly less useful than immediate exits. Track 2 was also pointing out that my phone had just vibrated again. Second notification, same camera, motion detected, bedroom. The shape had not moved in the feed, but something in that room had triggered a second motion alert. I made a decision in that moment that I want you to think about carefully. I slid out of the bed on the side furthest from the corner, keeping as low as possible, and moved toward the door without turning on any lights. My entire reasoning was that if someone was in the room, light confirmed I was awake and aware. Without light, I had the marginal advantage of already knowing the layout of the room better than anyone who had broken into it. I found the door handle. I opened the door, I went into the hallway and closed the door behind me. I sat on the hallway floor with my back against the wall, phone in hand, watching the live feed from outside the room. The hallway was dark and the flat was quiet except for the sound of the building around me. A distant hum from somewhere, a car outside, the specific silence of a place where nothing is visibly wrong, but something feels like it might be. The shape had not moved. For 6 minutes I watched the feed from the hallway. Nothing moved. The shape remained in the corner. At one point I thought I saw a slight shift, a movement at the very edge of the shape, and I stopped breathing for a full count of 5 before deciding I had imagined it. My phone screen kept dimming, and I kept tapping it awake, unwilling to let the feed go dark even for a second, because the part of my brain running track 2 was absolutely certain that the moment I stopped watching was the moment something would change. I called the building's emergency line, which connected to a night security guard, and explained in the calmest voice I could manage that I believed there was an intruder in my flat and I needed someone to come to the second floor immediately. My voice did not sound as calm as I was trying to make it. The security guard asked me twice to confirm the floor number, which in the moment felt like the most frustrating question anyone had ever asked me. The security guard, a man I will describe only as the most unhurried human being I have ever spoken to in my life, said he would come up and check. He arrived at my floor 7 minutes later. 7 minutes! I have timed 7 minutes since that night, and I want you to understand how long it is when you are sitting on a hallway floor watching a dark shape on a phone screen. He knocked on my flat door. I opened it. He was a large man in his 50s with a torch, a radio, and the general energy of someone who had done this particular task many times and found it more tedious than alarming. He asked me where the room was. I pointed at the bedroom door. He opened it. He turned on his torch. He stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he turned around and looked at me with an expression I could not immediately read. He said, "Is that your coat?" I walked to the doorway and looked past him. In the corner of the room, where the camera had detected motion and where I had seen a human-shaped dark mass pressed against the wall, was my own long winter coat, hanging on a hook I had put on the back of the wardrobe door 3 weeks ago, when I moved in and had not thought about since. Because it was a coat on a hook, and coats on hooks do not generally require further consideration. The wardrobe door, which I had apparently left at a slight angle when I got ready for bed, had shifted on its hinge over the course of the evening, swinging outward a few degrees and moving the coat from its usual flat position against the wardrobe into a more three-dimensional silhouette that projected outward, arms slightly away from the body, at the exact angle the camera was positioned to capture it from above. In that position, in the dark, at camera resolution, at 2:47 in the morning, my winter coat looked like a person standing in the corner of my room with their back to the wall. The coat had not moved on its own. The motion alerts had been triggered by the wardrobe door shifting, minimally, twice over the course of the night. Enough movement to register on a sensitive camera. Not enough to be visible on a live feed that I was watching from a hallway floor at 3 in the morning while my heart was doing things it was not designed for. I stood in my own bedroom doorway looking at my coat for a long time. Here is the insight from that night that I did not expect to take away from it, and it has genuinely changed how I think about a specific type of fear. The terror of those 40 minutes was completely real. The shaking hands were real. The calculation in the dark was real. The 6 minutes on the hallway floor watching a feed were real. None of that was irrational, given the information I had. Given what the camera showed me. Given the notification. Given the shape. Every response I made was the correct response to the situation as I understood it. The problem was not my response. The problem was that a camera and a motion sensor gave me information that was technically accurate and completely misleading at the same time. Motion detected. Bedroom. Both true. Both meaning nothing. I have since repositioned the camera. I have also started closing the wardrobe door fully before I go to sleep, which feels like the most embarrassingly simple lesson a person can learn at 3 in the morning. The coat is still on the hook. I considered moving it. I decided the coat did not deserve to be punished for the wardrobe door's behavior. So here is the question I have been sitting with ever since, and I want your honest answer in the comments, because I think about this more than I should. If you woke up at 3 in the morning to a motion alert showing a human-shaped silhouette in the corner of your bedroom, would you have turned on the light immediately and confronted it? Would you have left the room the way I did? Or would you have done something else entirely? There is no wrong answer here. But I want to know, because I have had a lot of time to think about what the bravest and most sensible move actually would have been. And I am still not sure I have the right answer. Tell me in the comments. I will be reading them, probably with the light on. If you love stories like this, the kind that keep you holding your breath until the last possible moment and then leave you somewhere between relieved and slightly embarrassed on someone else's behalf, subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly these moments, and there are a lot more of them coming.